Yo, what's up? It's Splendid Ray on Pharcyde TV with this week's guest, BodyBagBen. What's up with you, man?
Hello, man. Appreciate you having me, man. It's definitely nice to meet you. Definitely shout out to my man D Tragic for connecting the dots, man. And always an honor to chop it up with new folks, man. So appreciate you having me.
Nah, it's all good. It's all good. And I want to give a shout out to my co-host, still on the East Coast with this crazy weather and whatnot, but I'm sure the weather ain't the reason. Nah, OG Jeremy Scipio, man, very talented comedian, man, very talented comedian, smart cat. You know what I'm saying? So, anyway, man, how were you introduced to hip hop?
Man, it's kind of like anybody else, you know what I mean? Like you grow up listening to what your parents are listening to, right? They're playing music in the house. You grow up listening to like what your older cousins are listening to, your older brother. Me, I got an older brother. You know, he had older homies and they were always listening to hip hop or straight like heavy metal, like that underground stuff, man. We never listened to anything that was mainstream, you know what I mean? Even back in the day, I remember listening to like one of the first records I ever heard was my mom was playing it. It was like a I can't even, honestly, I think it was like an Eric B and Rakim like side B, you know what I mean? It wasn't even like a popular song, but I won't say popular, but like, one of the main joints that they got. It was something on side B, track 7 type shit. And that kind of stuff just stuck with me, man, just resonated. I always liked percussion, always liked drums. I actually play drums. And I got introduced into kind of like that world from a friend of mine. And I started playing instruments at a young age. And this shit just resonated with me, man. You know what I mean? Listening to, like I said, like Eric B and Rakim and LL Cool J and my man Cool G Rap, shit like that. Just I was hooked, you know what I mean? From then on, and just started doing my own digging. Just started looking for people and going to the record store and buying CDs and buying tapes and records with the artwork that stood out to me. I might have not even known who it was. And I'm just buying shit, you know what I mean? And some of it was ill, some of it was like, we'll put it over there in that pile, you know what I mean? So, but it's definitely like music has always been in the household. Music has always been, I've kind of always been surrounded by it one way or another, whether it was from my family at the house or hanging out with my friends and older cousins and relatives and shit like that.
Man, I want to thank you for something, man. You just brought something up that I totally forgot about. And I got an older sister. And so she had like Funkadelic, Cameo, like all that kind of, because I'm older, you know what I'm saying? So she's older, she's 8 years older than me. So she had like the Cameo, the Funkadelic, all that. And I was thinking about the question I asked you, and how were you introduced to hip hop? And when you were talking about, oh man, my mother and my brother and all that, I was like, dang, he really had like an introduction into hip hop, like where people who he lived with, his parents or whatever.
Yeah.
And when I thought about that, I thought it was dope. And then I was like, dang, you know what?
Me too.
My sister did introduce me to hip hop. Like I didn't want to give it to her. But she had bought some records that were off the Sugar Hill Gang label.
Oh yeah.
And so it was like one song's called like Birthday Party or something like that. But I was like, dang, I did. That is where I got it. Because, for me, hip hop was like MT. It was on the radio, kind of like in the, like, we'll say late 80s to late 70s to early 80s. It was kind of on like radio station, like K-Day was hecka fuzzy back then. And it was like, you had to really have a passion to just listen through some static and,
sure.
I think at nighttime it worked better or whatever. But anyway, the crazy thing about it is it's like, you know, it took, I could just tell by you saying like Eric B and Rakim and your parents and whatnot. But dude, it took a lot for hip hop to be on like FM stations and all that kind of stuff. Where
sure, yeah, we didn't listen to it on the radio. We had the physical copies. You know what I mean? We're playing it on the turntable. We're playing CDs, tapes. You know, whatever they had at the house at that time is mainly tapes.
Yeah.
And then records. I remember my old man used to have a bunch of records. My aunt used to be in a lowrider club, and she had a lot of records. And you know, really kind of started before that, to be honest, bro. Like growing up in Oxnard, you know what I mean, and growing up in that kind of like Latino culture, you know, every time that we would have birthdays and shit like that, you know, be out at the park barbecuing and having the parties for the kids, you know, the adults, you know, it's a birthday party.
They have their party.
Yeah, it's their party too. You know what I mean? And you know, they be listening to same thing, Cameo, Funkadelic, you know, Zapp and Roger, all that type of shit, and you know, all the lowrider classic type stuff. You know what I'm saying? And there's some, if you go back and you listen to it, you know what I mean. There's traces of hip hop in that music. You know what I mean? Like the rhythms, the patterns. You know, just kind of some of the way the drums swing around and some of the synth bass lines and shit like that. Like, you know what I mean? Like a lot of producers sample those records, right? A lot of those records have been sampled millions and millions of times throughout the years. You know what I mean? So I think just going back even further, you know what I mean? Like taking it to when I was like 3, 4, 5, you know, I can't remember much more before that. Being at these birthday parties and these barbecues in Oxnard and listening to the music and always remembering it, you know what I mean? And of course, when I got older, it just resonated more with me. And it probably started like heavily resonating with me when I was like 9, 10, you know, shit like that. And then once I started playing instruments, that's when I was just kind of like hooked. You know what I mean? I just wanted to learn the drums, learn how to play the bass, you know, follow along with the songs and all that, and try to, you know, teach myself how to play the songs. You know, because back then there wasn't no internet, there wasn't YouTube, there wasn't anything for you to learn off of. You know, you either had to go and like seek out someone to teach you how to do it, or try to learn how to do that shit yourself. And you know, we didn't have no money growing up for no, you know, guitar lessons or no shit like that. You know what I mean? Like we had to do it the OG way, man. Learn that shit by ear and just keep doing it for 10,000 hours until you get it.
You know what I mean? Heard that.
Man.
How do you think hip hop influences the world?
I don't know, man. I used to think that it had a positive impact. Now it's like once they blurred the lines, you know what I mean? And like, you know, I think that word gets used so loosely now. Like, think about it like this: like when you listen into radio stations in LA, or you're traveling around and you're listening to, you know, whatever radio station in whatever city you're at, and they say hip hop this, home of hip hop #1 station, and they ain't playing no fucking hip hop, man. They ain't playing nothing hip hop, nothing even close. You know what I mean? So it's like once that happened, I'm not sure when, probably was in the 90s, 80s sometime. I don't know where they started blurring the lines, but it used to be like bring people together. You know what I mean? Like that shit kept me out of a lot of trouble, to be honest with you, man. Like if I didn't get into hip hop, drugs, gangs, all that shit was right there waiting for me, man. Like straight up. Like my cousin, I had homies, like they're all around me all day long doing shit. Putting in work, bro.
Yeah.
Very, very active. And so hip hop for me, it impacted my life in a positive way because it kept me out of trouble. You know what I mean? And I don't know if that same thing is still a factor, you know, today. I know it probably is, you know what I mean? Like there's probably young kids out there right now that are probably coming up, having a much harder time finding real hip hop and like getting tapped in with it. You know what I'm saying? Because there's so much bullshit out there now that you got to go through to find something authentic versus
I got a theory on that.
What you got?
I don't think it's a matter of them not finding hip hop or the real hip hop, as you said, or something, paraphrasing what you said.
Sure.
I think they're not concerned about. You know what I'm saying? And so it's not about them trying, and like you got to get beyond that. It's not even about trying. And then the hip hop that they have, there is some hip hop that's not wild, but the more commercialized hip hop is kind of wild. You know what I'm saying? I won't say all of it, but I'll say a great percentage of it is wild. Like, man, when I was coming up, we had NWA.
Right. It was,
you know,
extra shit.
They had, you know, stuff, you know, whatever. The worst NWA really had to say was F the police. You know what I'm saying? But, you know, the police will at the current social environment, when that song came out, the police were going hella hard on people, right? So
LAPD is one of the most crooked organizations, you know, in the world, man.
So when you have you know, the music that's out right now, it's worse than gangbanger music with gangbangers banging on each other.
Right.
These guys are just going way further than just talking crazy. And then they have the money that allows them to
be everywhere.
Well, to be privileged, you know what I'm saying? To be privileged in a way where, like, you know, man, privilege to NWA. I won't say that they invented gangster rap, but I'll say that they were one of the first gangster rap groups to receive the acclaim that they received. Dude, they went on tour on a tour bus and got per diems and stuff like that. You know what I'm saying? And then, you know, splitting it up amongst them along with Easy and everything. And, you know, they have probably done it for a while, where you have these new artists that come out. Dude, the new artists get the right 1, 2, or 3 pop tunes, and they private jetting it. They go into the jewelry store. They're able to keep like up to about 10 to 15 people employed around them at all times, just part of the whole, you know what I'm saying? The whole thing. So, you know, as far as the kids now, they're not listening to hip hop to get knowledge. They're not listening to hip hop to get, you know, whatever. They're listening to hip hop to see who's sneak dissing somebody else over the dopest beat.
I mean, I got young kids. I got a 14-year-old daughter, and I got young nieces and young nephews and shit like that. And so they know I do music, right? And so some of them really like it. Some of them are just like, it all sounds the same. And I go, you telling me all my shit sounds the same, and you're listening to like NBA YoungBoy and The Baby, and every single song sounds exactly the same? I go, I'm not going to argue with a 12-year-old.
But you can't. But the thing about it, though, that's what their ears are tuned to. So you're hearing the same thing every single one. They really can differentiate between you. Real quick, and I'm gonna let you do your thing. But one of the things that I always pride myself in is I can listen to music, and if it's not for me, I can understand that it's I know what could be large or has the potential to be large if it's not large. You know what I'm saying? And so with that being said, I understand that I hear music different than other people. Like, say for instance, I could hear a song that I could say, to me, I'm not getting a lot out of it, but I can say there's something about that song that a lot of people would get
no doubt,
would get a lot out of it. But that's just it. So tell me this: other than hip hop, what would you say your favorite genre of music would be?
I like rock, man. I like heavy metal. I like that super grungy, thrashy punk rock shit, that really aggressive, rip your ear off in a mosh pit type stuff. You know what I mean? Like I used to be in a hardcore metal band. And I had a lot of fun doing that. We toured all over the US, we toured Canada, Mexico, we toured all over the place. And I enjoyed it, man. I loved the energy. I loved the high energy, we weren't trying to we didn't have no message, you know what I mean? It wasn't like, you know, our songs weren't about politics in Israel or, you know, nothing like that. You know what I mean? We're just playing loud, thrashy, crazy music, and it was fun. And, you know, we're signed to a record label and we had, you know, fans and the whole shit. So I think a lot of that too comes from also growing up. You know, my dad used to listen to heavy metal. My close friends used to listen to bands like, you know, Pantera and Sepultura and shit like that. So I grew up, you know, I grew up listening to both sides. So it was only right that that would also resonate with me too. You know what I mean? So, but it's not like those are the only two things I listen to. You know what I'm saying? You know, it's kind of funny, man. Like if people had to check out my my playlist and shit that I really listen to when I'm just like driving around or I'm at the gym or just doing this and doing that, people would laugh. You know what I mean? I listen to, you know, Whitney Houston. I listen to fucking, you know, Guy. You know, I listen to freaking shit like that. You know what I mean? I like R&B, huge R&B fan. I love that shit. You know what I mean? And it's funny because I just like good music. It doesn't really matter what genre it is per se. As long as there's something there, man, and it resonates with me, I could rock with it. Not a big country guy, I ain't gonna lie. There's not a lot of country music that I really fuck with. I like maybe some of the old honky tonk shit, maybe like some Johnny Cash stuff like that, just because like he was a good storyteller or whatever. But aside from that, man, I don't really do country like that. But again, you know, sometimes I just listen to like old 1970s like Italian music composers, just like who do soundtracks and just a lot of instrumental albums. And I don't know, man. I just listen to a lot of different shit. I don't really pigeonhole myself and put myself on one thing. You know what I mean? Like I think if you do that, especially as like a producer or someone who's into music and who makes music, if you all you do is listen to one thing, it's gonna bleed over and your music is gonna start sounding exactly the same. You know what I mean? All your shit, you're never gonna be able to really push it forward. And I hold myself accountable to that regard. Is like when I listen to my stuff, I wanna make sure that there's something there. There's something different every single time. You know what I mean? And whether it's incorporating different instruments, incorporating different genres of music, or you know, whatever it is, just grabbing, you know, inspiration from different artists and different, you know, from different eras and stuff like that. So in order to do that, you need to be able to have reference points. And you ain't gonna have reference points if all you're doing is listening to, you know, NBA Youngboy all day. Or if you're listening to Public Enemy all day. You know what I mean? You gotta really go outside, think outside the box, and don't be afraid to just consume new shit, because it'll change your point of view on stuff. You know, you might be looking at things one way, and all of a sudden you put on a Bruce Springsteen album or some shit, and you just vibe out for a little bit, and or anything. I'm just using him as an example. You know what I'm saying? It just, as a person who does music, you got to spend those hours, bro, like literally like listening to all kinds of shit, and you'd be surprised where you pull inspiration from.
Oh man, on one spectrum, I listen to house music and get 6 hours a day, and then on the other spectrum is E40. So it's, you know, and there's some fishbone mixed off up in there, along with some specials, you know, along with a whole bunch. So no, I definitely get that.
You're riding around listening to Santa Baby.
Oh man. So tell me this, your favorite hip hop movie?
Oh man. You know what's funny, dude, is I'm getting a little bit older too. And I used to be really into breakdancing. I started out breakdancing when I was like 11 years old, you know, spinning around on my head. My mom and dad thought I was gonna break my neck and shit like that. And so I used to really love the Beat Street movies. I used to love the breaking movies. Those those resonated with me a lot, you know what I mean? Because I used to want to be a really good breakdancer. And then you got other elements in there, you know, like looking at like Crush Groove, right? They had some breakdancing in there. They had the Fat Boys in there. They had all the big artists, you know, Run DMC, freaking LL Cool J, fucking Curtis Blow. You know, they had all of them in, man.
Def Jam.
That was, I don't know, man. That was probably one of my favorite, like from a kid growing up.
Mm-hmm.
And then, you know, once you start getting older, you start kind of looking at, you start liking different things, man. You know, I think, but that's probably like the foundation of it. You know, the early breaking movies, the early like the Beat Street shit like that, Crush Groove. I used to love those movies, man.
Nah, that's dope. That's dope. I want to shout out Ben Frank, man. He's our faithful the little chat room or whatever. You know what I'm saying?
That
Yeah, happy New Year's, Ben. Ben rocks with us, man. He rocks with us, and he got a decent musical taste. He been throwing up some cool ones, man. He threw up some Rage Against Machine, 40's the GOAT, Bad Brains. I'm like, okay, he got a, you know what I'm saying? He understands. I'll take that.
Of Rage Against the Machine.
So how did you realize that you had a gift for dealing with music though? Like what was that moment where you were like, okay, I wanna do this?
You know what, man? It was a slow process. You know what I mean? Like kind of like how we were talking before we went live, you know. It trips me out that I'm able to sit here and talk and connect with guys like Chino XL and Cool G Rap and people like that. Like these are people that I idolized growing up. And now they're my friends. Now these are people that we don't just talk about music. We talk about life and family and how we doing and shit like that. Like to be able to go from idolizing these dudes and stealing their bars and using them like they're my own to now being like, these are my friends. We make music, and that took 20 plus years, right? You know what I mean? Like you gotta, it's not gonna happen overnight, man. You know what I mean? Some people get lucky, you know, like you said, some of these new dudes, they got out one song and then boom, that's it. You know what I mean? And I think they got a whole system around them. You know what I mean? It wasn't like how it used to be. You had to be dope, man. Like you had to be very talented. You had to be the one dude out of like everyone in your neighborhood to be the one to rise. Cause it wasn't like how it used to be where everyone raps, everyone produces, everyone DJs. No.
Mm-hmm.
No. If you weren't dope, you didn't do those things. You sat on the sideline and you listened like everybody else.
But it was always, but it was always, man, it was always cats that are just kind of like, you know.
Well, yeah, not everyone was dope, but you could tell who was better than the next guy. So coming up like where I grew up at in Oxnard and living in LA and some of these other places, man, like, you know, there's a lot of people who were doing it before me. Like I said, I have an older brother, he had older homies, and you know, I would go to the parties with these guys. Once I started getting a little bit older, like 14, 15, I'd start hanging out with them a little bit more. And there's these dudes that used to freestyle all the time. My homie Defy and my homie Mech 3. And these guys are like 10, 15 years older than me. So, you know, when I was 15, these guys were like almost 30. You know what I mean? And these guys were like the OGs from the neighborhood who've been rhyming and doing this for a long time. So to me, those guys were like the greatest of all time, because these dudes would just be freestyling off the top of their heads for 2, 3, 4 hours straight and just like killing it. You know what I mean? So my aspiration back then was to be better than those guys. Like, fuck that. I'm coming for their spot. And they didn't even know it. You know, a 15-year-old kid on the sideline going, you know, plotting my plotting the takeover. You know, they had no clue. And so, you know, I would get more courage. So each session I would jump in more, jump in more, jump in more. And then, you know, it was crazy, man. Like I remember one of the homies was like, bro, you're better than Defy now. You're better than Mech 3 now. And it's just like, word, now it's time to show and prove that. You know what I'm saying? Like, and these are dudes, like I said, from my neighborhood. So once I kind of started feeling like I was getting more notoriety by people who I thought were super dope, that was all I needed. You know what I mean? That was like that little battery in my back that I needed to keep pushing it, to keep creating, to keep writing, to keep, you know, producing and doing this and doing that and the other thing. And then eventually start doing shows and really kind of put myself out there and start doing it and treating it like a business, you know what I mean? And it took a while, bro. You know what I mean? Like I got a real life. I got a family. I got people who depend on me to provide for them. And this ain't no fucking movie. This ain't no 8 Mile bullshit. Like, bro, I had to work. You know what I mean? I had to be a provider. I had to be a father. I had to be a man. And you know what I mean? Like that came first. Music was always second to me because I had to handle business as a man first. And hip hop, being an MC, being a rapper, being a producer, whatever, that wasn't keeping food on the table. That wasn't, you know, putting clothes on my daughter's back. I had to go to work every day, you know what I mean, and do my thing. So years could go by. Years go by. You go, shit, I haven't done nothing music related in 10 years. Sure, I still produce. Sure, I still write. Sure, I do this. Sure, I do that on my own time in my room, hanging out. But I don't know, something clicked in me probably like 6 or 7 years ago, man. I think it's when I met my fiance, and she used to ask me, you know, well, what do you do? What do you into and this and that? And I used to say, well, I used to produce music. I used to do this. I used to do that. And she was like, how come you don't do that shit no more? And I was like, you know what? I don't know. I didn't have a good reason why. I didn't have a good excuse why I stopped. So I literally went to Guitar Center like that weekend and bought like $8,000 worth of shit, brand new everything. Computer, drum machine, turntables, mic, everything that I needed to get the studio back up and running. And then I started producing again, started writing again, started putting out music again. And that was only like 6 years ago, man. You know what I mean? Like where I really kind of started putting my foot back on the gas. And I've done a lot since then. I produced songs for Snoop Dogg, Gino XL, MOP, Lupe Fiasco, Talib Kweli, Wu-Tang. In 6 years, I went from doing nothing to that. And now I'm sitting here with you. You know what I mean? So you could do it if you want to, man. Like anyone who's listening, anybody who is wondering like how to get your shit on, you got to go for it, man. You got to really go for it. And you got to not be afraid to spend some money, invest in yourself, put yourself out there. And you know what I mean? And start connecting with people and networking and treating it like a business, because that's really what it is, man. You know what I mean? Like it ain't gonna go nowhere if you just treat it like it's a hobby, man, you know? And I don't know. I think kind of looking at it like from that standpoint, you know, you should have fun doing what you do. You should have fun doing it, because if it stops being fun and it turns into like something stressful, or it turns into like a situation now where you're like spending money on a feature instead of paying your rent, you got a fucking problem. You know what I mean? Like you got to take care of yourself first, make sure all your priorities are straight first. And then if you got some shit left over to invest and do music with, then do that. Unless you like to live dangerously and have people be mad at you, you know. But that's how I did it. You know what I mean? I'm not saying that's how it works for everybody, but that seemed to work for me, you know, and it allowed me to have some freedom, because I wasn't worrying about, oh shit, I'm spending money on my music, I should be spending money on this or that. No. All those years that I worked, saved money, I had dough stashed away where I could invest it and move it around and do whatever I needed to do with it. So I wasn't really worrying about, oh, you know, this guy wants $200, $300, $400, $500 for a feature. Shit, I'm not gonna be able to pay my rent. I'm not gonna be able to get gas money. I'm not gonna, nah. If you're in a situation where your real life suffers because you're trying to get your music shit straight, I don't know, man. I think that you're kind of doing yourself a disservice, because when you do your music, you should be having fun with it. It shouldn't be like a stressful thing. You know what I mean? And if you're putting yourself in a bind financially to try to get it done, you know what I mean? Good luck. You know, good luck.
Your senior year in high school, you're about to graduate. What did you think your future was going to be? Like, what did you see going beyond high school, senior year?
Honestly, man, like the way shit was going, I was just happy to be alive, man. Like there was a lot of shit going on, a lot of drama. Up until that point, I've probably been in like 700 fights, been shot at, stabbed, a lot of crazy shit. You know what I'm saying? Like my cousin went to prison. My parents got divorced. I mean, all kinds of shit, bro. Like I wasn't thinking about music at all. That was the last thing on my mind. I was just happy to be alive.
Surviving. So your senior year, it was survival. Survival was the goal.
And happy that we moved. So we moved to San Diego, and that was a good thing for me, because that's when I joined the union, and I started working, and I started making money, and I had no clue that I was setting myself up for a win 20 something years ago.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, so getting into it early helped me financially now. And 5 or 6 years ago, when I said, you know what, I'm gonna start doing music again. BodyBag Productions, let's get my shit together. Started the little LLC and treat it like a real company. I got distribution through Fat Beats. You know, I got things in line and in place. You know what I mean? I don't just make beats at my house and try to sell them. You know what I mean? Like we move like a real operation, and we make real money. It's lucrative, pay taxes on it, do the whole shit. And it started with understanding how to be financially responsible from a young age, and kind of getting dropped into that because I had no other choice. It's either sink or swim type situation back then. So that was 18. You know what I mean? Like, no, better yet, that was 17, because I graduated and we got out early, and I would join the Ironworkers Union in San Diego when I was 17 years old.
Ironworkers, welders?
Yeah, structural. Yeah, so I do structure, iron.
Oh man, I might have to you know what I'm saying? I might have to call in one, man. Have you come and hang out, man. I won't have you go against the union rules or nothing like that, but you know what I'm saying?
I'm like a senior supervisor now. It's been 22 years, man, in the business. So yeah, I moved up a little bit since then.
That's tight. That's tight. So how'd you meet D Tragic?
I got put on it. I think he got put on to me by some of the homies out here in 805. You know what I mean? So I fucked my buddy Mark Ford, my homie Inzom. If you guys ain't familiar with them dudes, super, super talented. MC. Mark's an ill producer, MC, videographer, really talented dudes. You know, I think Oxnard is one of these weird cities, bro, where there's a lot of really talented dudes, but the scene is just, it's just dead, man. There's really no one here to like help try to unify it and get all of us together. And maybe, I don't know, maybe I need to be that person. I don't know. I've been thinking about it more and more lately, because, you know, you got guys like the OGs from out here, Madlib, the guys from Loot Pack, you know, Oh No, DJ Rome's and people like that. You know what I mean? It's like, I'm not saying nothing about them. They're OGs, man. These guys are legends. But if I came from a city where I knew that there was real raw talent, and that's where I was from, that's where I came up through, I would do everything I can to help the people around me.
Man, knock it off.
You know what I'm saying?
People ain't worried about that, man.
Oh,
worried about everything you talking about. But no, but you know what though? Anderson .Paak. He did an album called Oxnard, man.
from Oxnard, man.
Did huh?
Ain't even from Oxnard.
Ah, but he gave y'all props.
True. That's fine.
You know what I'm saying? He gave y'all props, man.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And it's so funny. The foodie in me, whenever I think of Oxnard, Ventura, and all that, I think of strawberries, man. A whole bunch of strawberries.
Oh, there's a reason why you think of strawberries. Because what is it? What is it, babe? 80% of the fucking world's strawberries come from Oxnard.
Okay, all right, that makes sense. I just know that the fields and whenever they're in season, I just remember there just being so many strawberries.
The soil here is some of the best soil in the world to do that, man. I mean, if you were a king in Africa somewhere and you're eating a strawberry, it's 80% chances that shit came from Oxnard.
Nah, that's a matter of fact. I was up in Oxnard. I went no, it's been a year. I went fishing out there with my cousin. We went out and huh?
You guys go out and take a boat out, or do you guys?
Yeah, took both. And after all that was said and done,
you guys didn't catch shit.
No. We had a cool little day, but I live in San Pedro, man. I live about 8 minutes from the water, 15 minutes from the beach. And it's kind of like, well, Harbor City is close to it's right between Carson and San Pedro. But I was like, man, for that hour plus drive, getting up super hella early in the morning and going up to Oxnard, I could have went right here to San Pedro.
Different vibe though, bro. You know what I mean? Like I tell people all the time, man, and I've been around the world, dude. You know, I've been lucky enough to go to a lot of places and see a lot of shit. And I tell people all the time, there's something like majestic about Ventura County, the beaches, the Central Coast. It has that vibe, bro. It has that laid back, small beach town vibe, and that's you gotta love that, man. You know, you go to the beaches in like LA, bro, you can't even put a towel down somewhere. You know what I mean? There 10 million motherfuckers on top of you. You know what I mean? You go hang out in Ventura or Oxnard, man, you got the whole beach to yourself. You know what I mean? You gotta love that.
Yeah. So your top 3 production influences.
You know what, man? It's crazy because if you're saying it just like that,
yep.
Production, not putting the constraints on me, not saying top hip hop producers. Man, it goes deep, bro. Like I love this guy's name's Les Baxter, and he's a music composer from like the 70s, 80s, 60s. Done a shit ton of movies. I love that guy's music. Like his shit's real. It's full of drama, bro. Full of strings, full of pianos, full of like crazy synth bass lines. I love sampling that dude's music. That's a free gem for you guys. So now you guys are gonna go out there and fucking go to YouTube and type in Les Baxter and be like, oh shit, here we go. Gold mine. You know what I'm saying? But if we're talking hip hop, man, I like, you know, I love the RZA, dude. RZA for me, I always loved the way he stacked his drums. I always loved that distorted bass and like that just crunch that he would bring into the music, but it wouldn't sound like too much. He was able to harness that and keep that right in the middle, so it didn't sound like it was peaking anywhere. Mm. You know, that comes with, you have to have a good ear to be able to take those crunchy, loud sounds, and I do that. I love taking those sounds that are just super distorted and crunchy and all over the place, EQing it, being able to calm it down, smooth it out, and use that in a song some more. So RZA really did that well. Of course, DJ Premier, Love the way he put the swing on the drums. Love the scratch hooks. And of course, I mean, it just, for when he came out, when those dudes were out, Gangstar,
Mhm.
like with all the other music that was going on around him, for them to do what they were doing and have that classic 90s East Coast underground sound and still be able to sell platinum, still be able to be on MTV and VH1 and BET and on the radio, and be able to, you know, to go coast to coast, north, south, everywhere with it. Come on, man. Like that's
Hmm.
unheard of, man. You know what I mean? And I think it's just because they were able to deliver that sound that resonated with you know, backpackers, with hardcore, you know, the hardcore, you know, raw gutter dudes that like that gangster shit, you know what I mean? So that was a hard thing to do. So definitely gotta tip my hat to DJ Premier, and you know, rest in peace Guru and all of that. And third, man, I'll be honest with you, man, like I was never a huge, and it's funny because I grew up here on the West Coast my whole life. You know what I mean? Been here my whole life. And when Dr. Dre came out and you know, Snoop Dogg and all those albums, people went crazy over all that. And don't get me wrong, I loved it too. You know, I had the tape, I had the CDs and everything like that. But once I started like digging into it, I started thinking, man, I like more of like the like um not fucking gin and juice, or you know, those real popular songs. I like the songs that were like way,
Yes.
yeah, Daz. And when I started realizing Daz was the one who produced all those like hardcore ones, I was like, shit, dude, Daz.
Nah. They said Daz did a lot, man. They said he did a whole lot.
He did all the drums, he did all that shit, man, and they didn't give him a lot of credit, and that's fucking foul. But yeah, probably Daz. That dude's for sure up there. So probably those three. I'm cool with that, man. I love High Tech. Love High Tech. I don't think High Tech gets enough props. And that's High Tech and Quality.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. So I love his shit. Alchemist, of course. DJ Muggs, Cypress Hill. You know, them dudes are super ill. Evidence, really dope MC, producer.
Top 3 MCs.
Chino, man. Chino XL by far. I think when I think of like what a MC should be, lyrics, cadence, wordplay, metaphors, similes, all the shit, all the tools. And the guy's just a machine, bro. Like he could take in 2 breaths of air and spit a 36 bar verse straight. You know what I mean? Like I've never seen anything like that. And of course, again, you know, the era that he came out in, people weren't really checking for that super duper lyrical crazy shit. You know what I mean? Like I was, and there was a lot of other people that were, and when they found him, just boom, right? Their fucking minds were blown. So I think from then to now, and once we drop our album, I'm telling you, man, this dude's probably better than he's ever been. And I'm saying that humbly, I'm saying that respectfully. That dude hasn't missed a beat, and he hasn't lost anything. If anything, I feel like he's gained a little bit more. You know what I mean? So shouts out to my brother Chino. He's definitely top of that list. Cool G Rap. Always love Cool G Rap, man. That he's always been someone that I feel, if there wasn't a Cool G Rap, there wouldn't be a Nas, there wouldn't be a Jay-Z, there wouldn't be a Biggie, you know what I mean? Without G Rap,
Scarface, the Ghetto Boys, man.
without G Rap, dude, a lot of those guys wouldn't have had
one of the original gangster rappers, you know.
Yeah, period, end of story, man. That's
one of them, you know.
Yeah, one of them, exactly. Definitely a trailblazer for the hip hop as we know it, right? That raw, gutter, super underground really dope shit. So shouts out to my bro G. Shit, man. There's so many, there's so many people out there, man. There's so many. So to put it,
more.
yeah. So to put it down in three is kind of like, I don't want to say disrespectful because that ain't the right word. So, man, if I had to put a third one up there at that Mount Rushmore, honestly, probably Nas, because when I first started listening to Nas, I liked what he did. You know, it wasn't. I liked how he used to collab with a lot of people. I like that he collabed with Wu a lot. I like that he collabed with, he had his own crew, right? Cormega and AZ and Foxy Brown, and, you know, the Firm. I like that he wouldn't just try to do. He wasn't trying to just shoot up and be like this super mainstream guy right off the rip. Like this guy put a lot of really dope side B, super grimy shit out. And like, that's what I used to love about him. Like my favorite Nas song of all time is probably New York State of Mind Part 2. That beat was just disgusting. Premier killed it. He killed it. The story was insane. And like, there's a lot of songs. What's that one? I'm like a gun. I'm like a gun, right? That song is crazy. And that beat, come on, man. That's like the epitome of 90s East Coast gutter shit right there.
Now, if you want to talk about the conversation, Nas is one of those people that I always hear, except for Jeremy, like my co-host. Like that's his favorite rapper. So you not going, man, he'll curse you if you say something, you know, derogatory about Nas. You know what I'm saying? That's his dude. But a lot of people think Nas don't be picked like they go into his beat selection. You know what I'm saying? They go hard on his beat selection, where I feel like he's got enough good songs to where, like, regardless of the beat, like everybody's not gonna have banger. But I'll say this: my favorite Nas song, his song, "Black Republicans" with Jay-Z.
That's an old one.
Now, him being on somebody else's stuff, the song he did was Scarface on the Fix album.
It's crazy.
That's like, you know what I'm saying? And I never speak out. You the first person I done dropped it on like that, but because Nas he's a very dope MC to me, but he's not like my favorite MC. Like, right. He's not my like number. He's not the number one, but I really don't have a number one. I don't look at hip hop kind of like that. You know?
I'm the same way, man. But you asked me the question, so I have to try.
I know. I look at it like, man, it's just so many dudes, and then so many guys were dope. Because, you know,
bring a lot of different shit to the table, you know. And
over the weekend, I listened to an X-Clan album.
Yeah.
And I was like, man, besides them bringing Bomb Squad funk style beats with so many samples stacked on top of so many samples, their flows weren't like anybody else's. You know what I'm saying? Like, if you would have came out at the same time or after that, people would have been like, man, you biting X-Clan, man. You know what I'm saying? Whether they would said it to you or not said it to you. But anyway, I just say all that to say, hip hop did used to be something different, but it evolved into what it is now. And it's gonna be interesting to see where it goes. You know what I'm saying? It's going to be very interesting. But there's some dope cats out there though. Like I don't like. I'll go ahead.
How tapped in you are with the underground, bro, but dude, there's literally hundreds of super dope MCs and producers that are fucking killing it right now. You know what I mean? Like putting out some of the illest shit, and it's crazy because if we were part of the early 90s movement, it would be like a free for all. You know what I mean? Because it would just be too many people that were good putting out music. You know what I mean? Like, so the underground scene. I mean, you got guys like Ito, you got guys like Rome Streets, who's really not underground too much anymore because he got signed by Griselda. And you know, those Griselda dudes, I mean, those guys make music with fucking Drake and Rick Ross and shit like that. You know, so I wouldn't even consider those guys underground. Maybe 5 years ago, yeah, for sure. They were underground on the cusp. You know, they were artists on the verge 5 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
Now they're definitely not underground by no stretch of the imagination. Do they still get lumped into that category? Yeah. And I think that's kind of bullshit because you got guys like me, super underground, but I'm pushing it. You know what I'm saying? I'm putting records out with, like I said, Snoop Dogg, Lupe Fiasco, Cannabis, Chino XL, and the list goes on and on and on. And it's one of those things where sooner or later, right? Like a person like you or Tragic, they find my music and it's like finding a gold mine kind of. Because now you get to go back and listen to the discography. Be like, damn, this guy got 20 albums that he's put out and they're all fire. You know what I'm saying? Like, I stand behind what I do, man. Like, I would put my music up with anybody's. And it's not every day you get to get on the phone with a G Rap or a Chino XL or a Rakim, and these guys tell you like, bro, your shit's fire, man, and it's an honor for me to work with you. Hearing that come from these guys fucks my head up, man. But what it really does is it makes me want to work that much harder because I know I'm not where I could be yet. You know what I'm saying? And that makes me want to keep pushing harder and harder and harder. And I'm telling you, man, it ain't gonna stop. It's only gonna get better.
So if you got a biopic, what would be the title?
See you when I'm famous.
All right. Who would play you?
Let's see, man. I don't know. That's a good question. No one's ever asked me that one yet. I like that. Shit. That's a good question. You stumped me on that one. Fuck. I don't even know, man. A young, coked out Robert Downey Jr.
I heard that. You know what I'm saying? Post Iron Man.
Iron Man. Yeah.
You know, for all that kind of stuff. Yeah. All right. No, I'll take that. If you could watch your dream verses, dead or alive, who would you like to see battle who?
Shit, man. Probably like, man, the big boys. Fuck it. Let's go with Big Pun and Biggie. Big Pun, Biggie. That would be crazy. Because I feel like both of their careers were kind of going the same path, man. Like they were both super grimy. And then all of a sudden, I'm not a player, I just crush a lot. And you know, Puffy had his hand in trying to make Biggie super, you know, going back to Cali, all that shit with the you know, wave your rollie in the sky bullshit. You know what I mean? Like that dude went from fuck it, I'm a piece of shit, it ain't hard to tell, to, you know, wave your rollie in the sky. And then of course Big Pun went from deep cover to you know, I want to be a player and all that other shit. You know, rest in peace to both of those guys. Obviously they're legends, but they're both really dope MCs. So it would have been crazy to see if they would have came back to that at one point in time in their careers.
That would have been a hell of a cipher, man.
I'm saying.
Like that would be, you know, just me visualizing it right now. Like, man, Pun and him in a cipher. I wouldn't want to watch it. I think 5, maybe 4 minutes of it would be enough. You know what I'm saying? It's something that's not something, you know.
If they have the stamina to do a full hour, but it would have just been crazy to see those two, to see, you know, what their careers would have turned into. you know, of course, I'm not going to say something cliche like Pac, man. Don't get me wrong. I love Pac. I think in my mind, he's definitely one of my favorite artists too. I think he probably would have went the LL route or something like that and just been like an actor, you know, just kind of got out of music completely and just been an actor and just now he probably would have won an Oscar or a Grammy or some type of shit like that by now for some role that he was in, you know what I mean? Because he was pretty good. You know what I mean? I thought Pac was a pretty decent actor. And you know, it's crazy.
Yeah.
Don't take nothing but one person or a couple bad people around you to twist your fucking mind up and send you down the wrong path, man. So it's unfortunate.
You know, when Pac died, he was a very young man. And it's interesting that when people do talk about his acting, they really don't do. He went to a school of the performing arts, and he was like, I mean,
like a fucking drama nerd.
Yeah, and so it's like, you know, I understand Pac had his gangster mode and he had his digital underground mode, but you're kind of dealing with somebody who's genius is a big word, but I'll say someone who's very talented. You know what I'm saying? So it's like whatever they did, they were going to be, you know.
He was aware of what was happening. And I think he knew it and he allowed it to happen. And I think it just got a little out of control and a little bit too far for him to wrangle it back in. You know what I mean? And it's unfortunate. So, but yeah, man, I'll stick with those two, Biggie and Big Pun, man, the big boys.
Nah, that's tight. So with that being said, I'm gonna hit you with the last one. Where do you see social progression going in the next 2 years? Just with the COVID shit and just all that, and just people communicating so much with technology and, you know, all that.
I mean, we're living in it right now, right? Like who would have thought 2 years ago that this would have been the new norm? You know, like, so it nothing really surprises me anymore, man. It's kind of crazy to think that, you know, I remember watching TV shows and cartoons, right? Where they're on their gadgets and there's this digital display and he's talking to them on these gadgets. And now we're living in that, bro. It's like all that shit. They were giving us signs and they were giving us clues way back then. And I think it was never too far-fetched of an idea for people to understand that technology is always 10, 15, 20 years ahead of what we have available to us right now. So I think just kind of not being like too consumed by it, you know what I mean? And being able to unplug yourself from it and not vest so much of your time and get worked up about what you see or read online or what people are commenting. Man, that shit don't, I mean, it's just me because I'm a little bit older and I just don't give a fuck. You know what I mean? I come from the era just like you where, you know, you wanted something done, you had to go get it, or you had to go to someone's face and say it, or you had to be at the place to see it. You know what I mean? And you know, I think unfortunately these kids nowadays, man, they lack those basic like skills where they don't have that awareness, where they can't see really what's going on in front of them because all they do is they got their eyes in the phone, they got their eyes glued to some other shit, and they can't tell when someone's being, you know, a snake, or they can't tell when someone's straight bold-faced lying to them in their face like that. You know what I mean? I think that's unfortunate because that used to be the street smarts, what we used to call street smart, right? Like you'd be able to pick that shit up like it's nothing. That shit's gone, bro. And it sucks. Like the only people who really still got that are people that are living, you know, who unfortunately don't have, I don't even want to say privilege because that's the wrong word, but like, you know, people who are still living, you know, in the hood, or people who are still on welfare and living in, you know, fucking bad parts of the world, and people who are still, you know, sharing each other's clothes and passing them down from you know, from oldest to youngest and shit like that. So I think living in the situation in the world now where we got all this stuff available to us, but then there's still the flip side is there's still people who are not fortunate enough to have that stuff. I think sooner or later it's just going to be available to everybody, and then everyone's going to be fucking brainwashed. You know what I'm saying? Like this is going to be like here's your baby, here's your baby's tablet. You know what I mean? Like it's just going to be like assigned to them or something. You know what I mean? It might get weird like that, but I don't know, man. I think it comes down to the parents, dude. It comes down to like the people you keep around you and like values. You know what I mean? Like I value conversations like this. Like I wish we were in person where we could do it. You'd be able to feel me a little bit more. You know what I mean? Like I think sometimes when you're talking to a screen, that's what you're doing. I'm talking to you, but realistically in my mind, bro, I'm talking to a screen. You know what I mean? And I don't really feel that. But you know, I think being able to teach the kids, man, and have them understand the basic math, the basic principles of like reading a person and looking them in their eyes and having respect and expecting that back. Like, I think we need to communicate that more with the youngsters and then also just with each other, man. Like, you know, people are weird on the internet, bro. Like, I'm sure you read weird ass comments and you have people probably coming at you all weird in the DMs talking about, yo, fam, this and that, let's work and da 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 da. And it's like, nah, man, like I'm good. You know what I mean? I'm good doing what I'm doing. And you know what I mean? I think the internet was the best thing, but like the worst thing that could happen. You know what I mean? Like I like how all, you know, you could have a lot of resources and this and that, but honestly, man, I don't know. It's just fucking weird, but it don't matter. You know, it don't matter what I think. I just, like I said, man, I'm just happy to be alive, bro.
This has been a good one. It's been a real cool conversation, and definitely got to link up with Chino and you know, maybe have him on after the record drops and after you guys do your thing. You want to share your social media?
Yeah, man. Yeah, anybody who wants to tap in with me, it's just BodyBag Music on Instagram, BodyBagBen on Twitter. If you want to tap into the website, I got you know, merch. I got physical copies, records, CDs, tapes, bunch of unreleased shit. That's bodybagmusic.com. And like I said, man, I'm a people person, man. I like to chop it up with people. So, you know, you want to hit me up, you know, you guys want to do business, you know, get at me and you know, we'll figure it out.
Cool. I want to give a last final shout out to Fortune, Ben Frank, and Vega 7. We had
7, the Ronin. I'm gonna tell you something real quick. Vega Ronin, you guys ain't ready for him, man. Telling you. You heard it first. You heard it first. You guys ain't ready for him, man.
Hey, man, hit him. Tell him to get at me.
Yo, Vega, you heard my man. Hit him up. I'll connect you guys. You guys could talk, man.
Yeah. Nah, that'd be all good. Well, no, man, this has been a very hip hop hip hop conversation on Splendid Radio on Pharcyde TV. So no, man, once again, dude, I really appreciate you tapping in. And yeah, just keep me up to date on when the release of the project is coming out. Once again, I'd love to have a conversation with Chino once it comes out. So that has been Splendid Radio on Pharcyde TV. Oh, cool. Yeah, nah, I thought you could hear me. Cool. All right, man. Peace.
Bro. Yep, I'll be in touch.
Yes, sir.